Hyperion by Friedrich Hölderlin. Page 67. Hyperion to Bellarmine. Some days later, they came up to visit us. We walked about the garden together. Diotima and I found ourselves ahead of the others, absorbed. Tears of ecstasy often rose to my eyes for the holiness that walked so unpretentiously beside me. Now we were standing close to the summit's rim, gazing out into the endless east. Diotima's eyes opened wide and softly as a bud unfolds. That sweet face unfolded under the airs of heaven, became pure speech and soul, and, as if beginning to rise among the clouds, her whole figure stood drawn gracefully up in gentle majesty, her feet scarcely touching the ground. Oh, could I have caught her under the arms, as an eagle grasps his Ganymede, and flown away with her over the sea and the islands. Now she stepped yet farther forward, and gazed down the precipitous rock wall. She found a pleasure in gauging the terrifying depths and losing herself in the night of the woods that raised their lustrous crowns from among fallen rocks and foaming, storm-swollen streams. The balustrade against which she was leaning was rather low, so I dared to hold the charming creature a moment, while thus she leaned forward. A hot, trembling rapture coursed through my being. My every sense reeled and was confounded. My hands burned like coals when I touched her. And then the profound joy of standing so familiarly beside her, and my tender childish fear lest she might fall, and my delight in the glorious maiden's enthusiasm. What is all that men have done and thought over thousands of years compared with one moment of love? But in all nature, too, it is what is nearest to perfection, what is most divinely beautiful. Thither all stairs lead from the threshold of life. Thence we come, thither we go. Hyperion to Bellarmine. The one thing I should forget is her singing. Only that music from the soul should never return into my unending dreams. We do not know the proudly sailing swan when it sits asleep on the bank. Only when she sang could one know the sweet, silent one who was so reluctant to speak. Only then did that divinely uncomplacent maiden appear in her majesty and her charm. Then did her tender blossoming lips breathe now cajolery and flattery, now the sternness of a divine decree. And what a quickened heart there was in that divine voice! How all pride and all humility, all the joy and sorrow of life appeared beautified in the nobility of those tones, as the swallow catches bees in flight. So she ever seized us all. It was not delight, not wonder that arose among us. It was the peace of heaven. 1,000 times have I said it to her and to myself. The most beautiful is also the most sacred. And such was everything in her, like her singing. Even so was her life. Hyperion to Bellarmine. Her heart was at home among flowers, as if itself were a flower. She named them all by their names, or out of her love for them gave them new and more beautiful ones. She knew exactly which was the happiest season for each of them. Like a sister when a dear brother or sister comes running to her from every corner, and each would be greeted first, so was her quiet being busy with hand and eye, blissfully distracted when we walked to the meadows or the woods. And all was so utterly unaffected and uncalculated in her It was so much a part of her own growth. It is eternally true. It is visible everywhere. The more innocent, the more beautiful a soul is, the more familiarly will it live with those other happy beings, to which men deny souls. Hyperion to Bellarmine. 1,000 times in the joy of my heart have I laughed at people who imagine that a noble spirit cannot possibly know how to cook a vegetable. At the proper time, Diotima could speak stoutly of the hearth, and surely there is nothing nobler than a noble maiden who tends the all-beneficent flame, and like nature herself, prepares the food that gladdens the heart. Hyperion to Bellarmine. What is all the artful knowledge in the world? What is all the proud autonomy of human thought compared with the unstudied music of this spirit, which knew not what it knew or what it was? Who would not rather choose the full, fresh grape cluster as it sprang from the root than the picked and dried grapes that the merchant presses into the box and sends out into the world? What is the wisdom of a book compared with the wisdom of an angel? She always seemed to say so little and said so much. One late twilight, I was seeing her home. Dewy mists were gliding over the field. The blessed stars looked down through the twigs like watchful geniuses. Rarely was a "how beautiful" heard from her lips, even though her reverent heart left no whispering leaf, no purling brook, unheard and unheeded. But this time she said it aloud to me. "How beautiful!" "Perhaps it is so to please us," I said casually, as children say something, neither in jest nor in earnest. "I can imagine that it is as you say," she answered. "I like best to think of the world as of life in a household, of which each member, without exactly thinking about it, adapts himself to all the others, in which all live pleasing and rejoicing one another simply because that is what springs from their hearts." "A happy and noble truth," I cried. She was silent for a while. "Then we too are children in such a household," I finally resumed. "We are and shall be." "Shall ever be," she answered. "Shall we?" I asked. "In this," she continued, "I trust nature as daily as I trust her." Oh, how I wish I could have been Diotima as she said this, but you do not know what she said, my Bellarmine. You neither saw it nor heard it. "You are right," I cried. "Eternal beauty, the eternal beauty that is nature, suffers no loss as she suffers no addition. Her ornaments are different tomorrow from what they were today, but she cannot dispense with what is best in us, with us ourselves, and least of all with you. We believe that we are eternal because our souls feel the beauty of nature. She will be a mere patchwork. She will be neither divine nor complete if ever you are lacking to her. She does not deserve your heart if she must blush before your hopes." Hyperion to Bellarmine. Such freedom from want, such divine content, I have never found before. As the ocean swell about the shores of happy isles, so the peace of the heavenly maiden flowed about my restless heart. I had nothing to give her except a mind full of wild contradictions, full of bleeding memories. I had nothing to give her except my boundless love with its 1,000 cares, its 1,000 furious hopes, but she stood before me in changeless beauty, effortless, in smiling perfection, and all the visions, all the dreams of mortality Oh, that the genius presages of higher regions and golden morning hours, it was all fulfilled in that one calm soul. Men say that the battle will die away beyond the stars, only after our lees have sunk. They promise us, will fermenting life be changed into the noble vintage of joy? Men look no more on this earth for the heart-whole rest of the blessed. I know otherwise. I have taken the shorter way. I stood before her, and heard, and saw the peace of heaven. And in the very midst of this sighing chaos, Urania appeared to me. How often have I stilled my grieving before that image? How often have arrogant life and the striving mind been pacified? When sunk in blessed contemplation, I looked into her heart as one looks into a spring when it trembles silently under the touch of the sky that trickles down on it in drops of silver. She was my Lethe, her soul my sacred Lethe, from which I drank forgetfulness of existence, so that I stood before her like an immortal and joyously rebuked myself, and, as if after oppressive dreams, could not but smile at all the chains that had hung heavy on me. Oh, I could have become a happy man, an admirable man with her, but that went wrong. And now I wander about in what is before me and in me, and on beyond, and know not what to make of myself and other things. My soul is like a fish cast up out of its element on the sand of the beach, and it writhes and flings itself about until it dries up in the heat of the day. Ah, were there but something left in the world for me to do! Were there work for me, a war for me, naught would refresh me. Boys torn from their mothers' breasts and cast out into the wilderness were once, so they say, suckled by a she-wolf. My heart is not so fortunate. Hyperion to Bellarmine. I can speak of her only fragmentarily, a word here, a word there. I have to forget what she is in her completeness, if I am to speak of her at all. I have to trick myself into believing that she lived long, long ago, that I know only a little about her from hearsay. If her living image is not so to overwhelm me that I perish in rapture and woe, if I am not to die of delight in her and die of grief for her.